Welcome to the Hangin Banners podcast with your hosts, Tyler Witt.
How about this block here by Tyler Witt? You're going to see him get out in front, and he's going to get a key block that springs this play.
Jack Coachman.
And here he is, having the time of his life.
And Ryan Sartori.
Maybe short, but he's thick.
That's thick with two C's at the end.
Welcome back. It's episode 24 of the Hangin Banners podcast. I'm Ryan Sartori with Tyler Witt and Jack Coachman. Gentlemen, we're back again. We're almost a quarter century old, and today we're installing a new segment to the show. It's going to look a little different for everybody.
I like that we've continued to run with the every episode counts as a full year. So if anybody ever asks how long our show has been running, it's like, dude, we've been doing this for what, 25 years now? I mean, this show is going to pass us up in age pretty soon.
Yeah, right.
It's like dog years, but it's podcast years. Every single week is a whole year in podcast years.
Exactly. Well, so today on the show, we've got the Combine to talk about. Tyler, you were watching very intently over the past couple of days as the Combine was going on in Indianapolis. Jack wants to talk specifically about championship windows. And I think the way you said it, Jack, was kind of teams manufacturing their championship windows and exactly how we think certain teams should do it and how they shouldn't do it. And this comes on the heels of the news of the Saints bringing in Derek Carr for the next 4 years on a pretty massive contract. We're also going to, like I said, install a new segment on the show now that we're moving into the off season for football. It opens up a little bit more time on the show. So we're going to introduce something called Starting Five, which is a segment that'll feel familiar to some, a draft style segment where we kind of take some obscure things and draft them. Today we'll do the draft of spring things. There's no definition needed. It's left open on purpose, and we're going to bring that to you at the end of the show. So with that, I think the best way to start the show, regardless of if it looks new, if it looks different, whatever, is to start with our wins for the week.
All right, I'll jump in. My win for this week is a continuation of last week. So it's pretty easy because last time I talked about conference tournament season at length and how it's one of the best times, maybe the best time on the college basketball calendar, and even larger, the sports year as a whole. And it's still in full swing. So I have spent, thankfully, a lot of time watching college basketball teams that you've probably never heard of, betting money on, picking and rooting for different programs who may or may not have seen this level of success. Maybe they're bad and they used to be good, they used to be bad, but lots of fun storylines. So I'm just thankful that we are still in the middle at the end. By the time we go to next week, conference tournament season will be over. But conference tourney season, part 2, that's my win.
Yeah, every night that I've been on PlayStation with you, it's been like, okay, I got to get my late window bets in because, some team playing in the whatever Western Mountain Pacific Coast
Sure.
conference.
That could be a new conference.
Yeah. But no, I mean, when Jack says that he is heavily invested into conference tournament season and March Madness, he truly, truly means it. So happy that you're enjoying that. I've been getting a ton of spring training baseball in, watching a bunch of players that I know I'll never see again. But still, the action is happening on a diamond, and I love seeing it.
It is exciting, right? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like you only get that missing baseball. I think we talked about this a little bit last week. Is like there's such a short window for it, but it's still fresh. It's still new, like getting used to the pitch clock, getting used to all the new rules, the base sizes, the no shifting, like all of it. It's exciting. It's an exciting time for sports, like March Madness is on the cusp and baseball's back and it's the heart of the XFL football season. So who wouldn't be invested?
Oh, Jesus. I do want to bring up really quick, and I don't want to get too deep into it, but on our conversation from the pitch clock and all the loopholes and things that we could see coming up this year, there was a video from Pitching Ninja that kind of made its way around Twitter. I actually reposted it because I thought it was that interesting that Max Scherzer found another way to kind of find a loophole. So every batter gets a chance to step out once. After that, there's no more stepping out for them. They have to be ready by that 8-second mark, and they can't call for time. So the batter calls for time in a 2-strike count, steps out. Scherzer's on the mound, set and ready to go. And as soon as that guy stepped in and looked up, the pitch is coming at him. And what are you going to do? You're on your heels. It's an instant strikeout. There's nothing that batter can do about it. There's not another time to be called. There's not a step out that can happen, or else it's an automatic strike and you don't even get a chance. So we're still a week and a half, 2 weeks into spring training. Like, we're going to continue to see these new ways on how pitchers are going to establish dominance with a pitch clock. So,
and I think it's good to note too, I think you do a bit of a disservice to the whole play by calling it a loophole, because like, that's this rule change, right? It is such a drastic shift in what is allowed or disallowed that I think and again, this is semantics, but I almost would rather call that like a quirk, right? Is we're going to start to see these things that pitchers, batters, catchers, managers find out as they start to explore the depth of this rule, that we don't have guys who are really skirting around the system. Everybody's following the intent of the rule was to make the game faster. And any way that a player uses this rule to make the game faster is exactly what it was designed for. And so I think it's cool to see, like, all right, why don't I give this a shot? Worst case scenario is MLB says, you know what, we've got to make a countermeasure for that. But until then, we're going to see all sorts of creativity.
totally. Now, Tyler, I'm interested to hear what your win for the week is.
Yeah. So when was it? I left Canada in November.
November? Yeah.
Yes. And it's been a long time, but today I finally got my security deposit back from my apartment.
Hey,
it has been a long, hard road to get this deposit back. Let me tell you, multiple calls. I'm pretty sure the lady was dodging my calls. She said that they were supposed to mail it a month after I left. And I reached out after the month, no word. Oh, well, now they're on holiday, so now they can't send it to me. Then a couple weeks later, I call them and they're like, oh, well, we mailed a check. It should get there soon. It's like, okay, cool. No check found me. I finally got back to them, and I was like, listen, like, is there any way, like, I need the money. It's a lot of money that's just out there on the table. And they finally were like, okay, we'll transfer it into your bank account. Give us your banking information, whatever, because that's how it works in Canada. And what it ended up being was an e-transfer, which is what I wanted them to do the whole time. It would have been done instantaneously.
You were like, hey, man, just PayPal me. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's essentially PayPal for Canada, because they don't have like Venmo or anything up there. You could just transfer between bank accounts. And that's what they did. It could have been case closed, like day one, like, yeah, we'll e-transfer you all your money back, whatever. Nope. 4 months later, got it back. But we're still winning because we have the money now. So now I just have to wire it to myself. So that'll be an exciting new adventure.
It's almost like a gym membership. Like, it's almost like the apartment complex up there wanted you to forget that you had given them money, or that, you know what I mean? And then they weren't going to give it back. If you didn't keep calling, that money wasn't ever going to find you, which is incredibly shitty.
Yes. And considering it was a lot of money.
Well, and considering like, as a renter myself, and as I'm sure there's a ton of renters out there listening to the podcast right now, like, people who rent out anything typically make a very good return on investment. It might not be right out the gate, but inevitably you are going to make a pretty crazy return on your investment. And so, like, to keep however much money you gave them as a deposit is just aggravating, but good that you got it back. So that is definitely a win. Getting that little come up, and it's tax season. So them football W-2s are going to be rolling around here soon.
Yeah, my Canadian W-2 that I have no idea what to do with. So that's also thrilling.
You should call Joe.
I don't want to. No.
Yeah, he'll help.
I thought you were going to say like Joe Mama, and then like Bernie.
Like that you were careful.
Yeah,
he's like,
I certainly would not have seen that coming. That would have blindsided me. It wasn't even my answer to give.
Joe Mama, yeah. All right. So my win of the week is developing even now as we start recording this podcast. The offseason is breaking perfectly for the Chicago Bears, and this is something that is a gigantic win for me. The storyline of the Bears offseason is playing a gigantic role in my personal emotional state day in and day out. Like, I'm running mock drafts and getting genuine like excitement about like what's happening in this virtual world of the mock drafts that I'm running. I hope that there are other people out there like me doing the same thing, and so that this isn't just the crazy ramblings of an individual who just likes the mock drafts. But earlier today, Jack, we mentioned that Derek Carr going to the Saints takes one team out of the running for like a quarterback needy team. As we're getting ready to record this podcast, the Seattle Seahawks have announced they've signed Geno Smith to a 3-year contract worth $105 million. He's going to get paid something like $52 million in the first year of the deal. So that takes them out of the running as a possible quarterback needy team as well. Couple of more dominoes still to fall, but as it's shaking out right now, there's 7 teams in the top 11 picks that need a quarterback, and the Bears don't need one, hold that number 1 spot. And I assume that they are going to hold the NFL ransom for that first overall pick. And I hope will be very successful. So I'm happy and counting it as a win that the franchise that I follow that has never been good at anything seems to be in the best position any first overall team has ever been in right now.
Let me ask you a question about all your mock drafting, because I do see people post their mock drafts, either team specific or rounds and stuff. Do you do trades in your mock drafts?
I've never drafted with the first overall pick in any of my mock drafts.
But like, because I know you've done this in the past couple of years as well. Like, whenever you're doing a mock, do you always like look for trades if possible?
100%. I think one of the smartest things the Patriots are a sustainably successful franchise, I think, because they are experts at knowing when to trade back and maximizing their late round picks.
But I'm not so concerned about that. I'm more interested in the machine, because everybody that I see post mock drafts online always is like trading down and out of high picks. But obviously, it's not possible for every team to trade down because somebody has to go up at some point.
Right.
And I get like the Bears at number 1 can't go up from there. So this year, throw that out. But do you ever find yourself or see other people's mocks where you trade up? Or am I right that it just is like people are always just trying to get more picks in these mocks?
Well, I think that's like the unrealistic fan expectation is like
armchair GM.
Well, so like I hate to bring up another podcast, but they're the number 1 sports podcast in the world. Pardon My Take had Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus on their podcast this week. And, Big Cat sits down across the table from Ryan Poles and says, "Let me show you how easy this is. I ran a mock draft and we have 6 first-round picks this year. It's not hard. Just do that." Right? So like that's
why I hate looking at some of these mock drafts, because I'll look and it'll be like, we gave up a first and a third for a late first and 3 future firsts, and then we'll send them some 7ths or something. I'm like, I trust that you trust your mocks and stuff. I always am hesitant to trust these machines as somebody who's not a mock drafter. I just want to know if you felt that experience too.
Trusting the machine is never what you should do. Like, I recognize the trades that I get to go through. I don't force through, and I don't like change the slider so that all the trades are super easy. But like, if I have, like, let's say I'm trading back with the Panthers, because that's something that I've been doing a lot in the mock drafts that I've been running now at number 9. At number 9, you can get them to trade their first this year, a pick swap this year, their first next year, and their 25 first, tack on 2 seconds, and still be at about a 70% chance that the trade goes through.
Dude,
then you can just start clicking through and picking different things up, and like, okay, what if I do this instead of that? And it'll show you a percentage on like how likely the trade is to get done. When you have like 3 firsts, 2 seconds, a 4th, a 5th, and then you just start clicking all their 7s because it only takes the percentage down by like 2 percentage points every time. That's not going to happen in real life. They're not going to be like, here, take some 7s too, because we want this number 1 pick. The draft picks are more highly valued than at 2%. So like, I recognize that a lot of what I put together isn't necessarily how it's going to go through, but it's fun to see like, oh, look at this. When we say King's ransom, that sometimes gets like diminished a little bit on the meaning behind a King's ransom, but legitimately look at the King's ransom that I was able to get for this first overall pick. I don't think it's going to be as significant as a lot of Bears fans think. I think that they're going to get multiple first round picks. And I think that there's going to be a couple of late ones just sprinkled in. Maybe they get a second. So maybe it's 3 firsts, a second, and a 5th or 6th thrown in there. That seems like maybe a reasonable package. It's going to be multiple firsts, though. That's all I can say for certain. But to answer your question, yes, I have traded up in certain mock drafts where maybe you'll trade down to 9 and take a tackle, Skoronski or Johnson Jr., whoever it might be. And then when I see Jackson Smith and Jigba sitting around at like 20, or if Quentin Johnson somehow slides that far, I will debate trading up and taking him, or either one of them. So
which is
yes, I have traded up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you turn 1 into 9 and 20, that's still a trade down.
Right. So I am very happy with the way the offseason is shaking out. Like I said, we still have to see where Jimmy G goes once actual free agency starts next week. We have to see what the inevitable situation is with Aaron Rodgers, though early rumors are saying that he will stay in Green Bay. And, we still have to figure out what's going on with Lamar Jackson. We have to figure out what's going on with Daniel Jones. But the news of Geno Smith and Derek Carr finding their way to a new home or re-signing in their current home situations gives me a lot of hope that everything is breaking right for the Bears this offseason. So I'm very excited for that. With that, I'll switch it over now to intercepted at the goal line. I'm going to go last here because it'll transition perfectly into what we're talking about with the combine. So either of you can duke it out for who goes first.
I'll take this one. I'll go first. So I'm currently in a position where I am applying for jobs, and one of the great tools of our generation is LinkedIn. So I've been using LinkedIn. And I've been having success. So, but this is one of my biggest pet peeves is I have my degree in engineering. Okay. I worked very hard to get that degree while playing football. And what some people on LinkedIn don't understand is that not all athletes want to be salesmen. And so I get a bunch of like messages about like, oh, come be a salesman for me for X amount of money each year plus commission. I'm like, no, I went to school for engineering. Like my resume is in my profile. You can like look at it, all my experience. I don't want to be in sales. And I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand with my intercepted at the goal line last week, where I had that horrible call with someone who didn't know what spontaneous meant. Like it's the same exact thing, except like I just get overwhelmed with all these messages like, you would be a great salesman. You would be a great salesman. I didn't go to school for that. I don't want to do that. Just because athletes go to school and like they're done playing football doesn't mean they want to be salesmen. So for all you people out there that are recruiting salesmen, don't text every single athlete just because you think it's a good idea.
Yeah, get fucked, bud. Is this like a common plight for athletes? Is like you find a lot of people are like, oh, you dumb athlete, you sell thing.
Yes, it's 100% the case. Even when I wasn't looking for a job, I'd always have on LinkedIn business or sales recruiters like, oh, you would be great for this role. I'm like, oh, is it engineering? No, it's sales. No, I don't no. Why would I like throw away my hard-earned degree to go be a salesman for a paper company? Like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up.
He's actually just Thunder Mifflin gave him a call.
Yeah, it's Dwight Schrute on the phone.
No, I wonder. I bet you're right about the athletes being specifically targeted, but I feel like that's been. I've had similar experiences, and the same with friends. Like I did not study. I studied a program that incorporated sales, and as somebody who is both underemployed right now and also not working in the field that I got a degree in, maybe I don't have a super strong leg to stand on. But I also would get messages about like, "Oh, come do sales," and I think that. It makes me question the need to learn sales in college if every sales organization just wants people who are passionate about the job. Because I've talked to organizations within the realm of sports, which is what I studied, that have like whole courses within their org that can train you on their sales docket and their menu of items and how to talk to people. And I'm like, well, if you have all this, why did I need to take the classes in college? Like every business in the country has their own sales 101. Right. So I wonder if that just like needs to be something that we stop teaching because all the companies assume that anyone can do it anyways.
Let me say something as like somebody who comes, like my dad is a salesman, and I've heard him tell horror stories of people that they've hired and don't know how to sell anything. Selling is not for everybody. There is a certain amount of like emotional voidness that has to come in when you are trying to sell something to somebody who doesn't necessarily need it. I am far too analytical. I'm far too sympathetic with people to be a salesman. When I worked at the car wash years ago, part of my job was selling car washes to people. And these were people from, low income areas, but also people from higher income areas would come in. And we were always taught, sell the highest car wash to everybody. But I'm like, this guy has, not to shame anybody, but this guy has a donut for a wheel, has a plastic bag in his back window, and has, rust in all of his wheel wells. Why? He's very much struggling. Why would I force sell him a $25 car wash? You know what I mean? Like, there's a certain amount of that you have to have of just like, I don't care. I'm in it for me, that I don't know that any of the three of us really possess.
No, I was just like, the job that I most recently did was sales. And I loved the organization I worked for and the product I was selling, but I hate money. Like, I hate spending money. I'm wearing a t-shirt that I got for free for a place I worked at like 6 or 7 years ago. This might be one of my newest shirts. Like, I'm not going to go buy a shirt. So what am I going to do and be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to sell you this thing, but you would really like the premium version of it. I even told my coworkers, like, if I could just give our product to everyone for free, I would. Like, I don't care. I get that we need money, but get it from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So, yeah. So LinkedIn sales recruiters, stay out of my DMs. I don't want to hear it. I'm looking for
the recruiters and the headhunters, man.
Especially on LinkedIn, right? Because you'll get the, like, you got a message on LinkedIn. You open it, and
Yes.
it's like, it's another one of these things.
Hey, Tyler, I looked at your resume, and guess what? We want to hire you for a sales position, even though it says you got a degree in engineering. And
are you reading one right now?
That's basically how it went.
I've got to have at least one that I could like read. I think anybody who's ever been on LinkedIn.
All right, here's the question. While we're pulling up our LinkedIn's, is how many messages with like actual people do you have in your message feed on LinkedIn? Because I think I've had like 1 or 2 correspondences with people on LinkedIn that I actually was trying to have a conversation with. And I remember one of them ended up going like horribly poorly anyways. Oh,
Here's one. This is from a financial representative at Northwestern Mutual. For everybody listening, I studied journalism and media communications. My degree is in mass comm. This is a financial representative at Northwestern Mutual. Hi, Ryan. I wanted to reach out because we have some mutual connections, and I love meeting people who went to NCC. I work with a ton of people very similar to you and would love to find a time for us to connect and maybe network. Would you like to connect whatever time? Hi, I saw you're open to work. Would you like to work with our company? No, absolutely not. What about my background of talking about sports and farts? Do you think would fit in well with Northwestern Mutual? Tyler, it is a commonly shared plight. And I'm happy you brought that to the table because I'm sure there's somebody out there right now listening who's like, me too.
Yeah, he's
united, pulling out his hair just in frustration. He's like, no, I don't want to sell Cutco knives. No.
Oh, dude, the Cutco knives. Oh my God.
Here's the thing. There are a lot of pyramid schemes out there. Every senior in high school. There are a lot of pyramid schemes out there, or they've rebranded now to multi-level marketing. Multi-level marketing businesses or whatever, MLMs. Still a pyramid scheme. I had a girl in college that would hang out in our dorm all the time, and she did whatever, like hair products, and she'd be like, no, it's an MLM. Look, I have a coach, and she shows us PowerPoints every week. I'm like, are there multiple of you? She's like, yeah. She's like, did she sign all of you guys up? She's like, yeah, of course. I was like, do you have to get people to sell the thing? Uh-huh. Do you teach them about all the different stuff that you learned from your mentor? Yeah, of course. That's a pyramid scheme. No, it's not. It's an MLM. It says so in the PowerPoint. I'm like, oh, sweet child.
Have either of you
sweet
guys
child.
been in one of these? Have either of you been in a multi-level structure thing?
No, my
I
mom
haven't.
sold Pampered Chef when I was a kid, though, and I thought
Oh,
that
dude,
was
so did
cool
mine,
until
yeah.
I realized that
That's weird.
that's not. That's just an MLM too.
Like Tupperware and stuff. No, I was in a multi-level thing, but I wouldn't call it a scheme. But I guess nobody in the thing does call it a scheme, right? But I actually I believed in it. I wasn't just trying to make a quick buck. I don't know, Sartori, do you remember it was a few years ago, and it was for like a sports betting tool, and it was like I was trying to get people to like sign up for the app or whatever, and then if I got people that would sign up, like I don't know, they made it some competition for like college students interested in sports stuff or whatever. And like when I would explain to people, they're like, all right, so this is a pyramid scheme. And I'm like, I will not deny the pyramid structure, but it certainly is not a scheme because it's a legitimate product. And this is not like I'm signing on for some, oh, I have to buy all. That was the problem, right? Is people have to like buy the inventory and then distribute it. That's what ruins people in these things. But no, I guess I was probably part of one of those at one point, but I really enjoyed my time. So that's another difference.
Cutco Knives is the only MLM for men.
We have
want to talk about
in this house
that
I'm in right now.
If we want to talk about inequality in the workplace, let's talk about the fact that there are very few MLMs for out of high school gentlemen to partake in, unless they want to sell, I don't know, Pampered Chef or
what's the
is it Forever 31 or whatever? The bags you can get embroidered, all the like softball, baseball, soccer moms have them, where it's got like their little kid's name and the embroidery. It's something like that.
Gosh.
Like
There's another one that was like running rampant at Western Kentucky when I was there. It was like this supplement, like a
a Vitamix or one of those.
Yeah, it was like
things.
Argon or something.
Herbalife.
Yeah.
Herbalife, yeah.
Herbalife.
Yep, I remember seeing that on Facebook.
Yeah.
Oh God. Wow. Dude,
Wow.
what a horrible conversation.
What a fun tangent, though. I was not expecting us to go here, but we did. Jack, what's your intercepted at the goal line?
My intercepted at the goal line is, even though I really like them, it has to be NFL Red Zone this week, unfortunately. I'm a big Red Zone fan, big Red Zone watcher, but it has trained me to be a bad sports fan. And it just makes me want like an exact NFL Red Zone of all of the sports, and there isn't. So like it's one of those, I think humanity was gifted with a perfect technology before it was ready, and it has damaged society, like one of those sort of dystopic things. Because I'm watching these like college basketball tournaments, I only got so many screens. I need whip around coverage of like all of these small time schools. I want them to show me the end, because I'm like, wait, I just missed a 15-point comeback, and I've been watching stupid, 1 seed blow out a 3 seed in the semis. So thanks to NFL Red Zone, I can't handle myself watching sports as well as I used to. So I'm putting them as the bad thing for the week.
Follow me. Just follow me. You're going to raise your eyebrows and go, what? But there is research out there that suggests from psychologists that say like, porn ruins sex for some young men. They have higher expectations for what sex should be because of porn. I feel like NFL Red Zone is your porn, Jack Coachman.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, I don't know if it's cross sport, but I think a lot of people would agree that like they have a harder time watching a single NFL game if they have been avid Red Zone watchers, because the pace is just not the same. So I think that's probably a shared problem. But even like tennis tournaments, they'll whip around, they'll be like, we'll go between these 3 or 4 courts. And I'm like, there's 25 matches on. What do you mean you're going to show me 3 of them? That's not whip around coverage. So no, I think you're right. I think I either need to stop watching NFL Red Zone, which won't happen, or I just need to complain more about the other things until there's change, which probably will happen.
This is quite literally Jack Coachman's porn. Like you could change a couple words.
Yes, I know I have a problem, but I don't think there's a way to fix it. And it's something that everybody does. So I'm sticking with NFL Red Zone. You can't change my mind.
I dig it. Who is your favorite NFL Red Zone star?
Scott Hansen. Easy. The days of Siciliano are gone. He's a great sportscaster, but Red Zone, he can't hang. Sorry.
All right. My intercepted at the goal line this week is it's two-pronged here. It's two-pronged. Number one, it's caffeine poisoning. So Jack, this is right up your alley. I'm somebody, every show I've got some sort of caffeine ready to go so that I'm locked in for the show. I know my limits with caffeine. I will draw the line in the sand and be like, ooh, I'm buzzing a little bit. I need to chill out, drink some water, whatever. Right. Oh, I catch a high off of caffeine. Like,
That boy buzzing.
I
yeah.
just need to remember this for next time you say you're buzzed. I'm like, all right, I got to figure out which one he means.
Is it drug induced? Is it caffeine? Is it alcohol? But so the gentleman's name is Matthew Meyer from Illinois men's basketball, and he was out for multiple games with caffeine poisoning. He said that he stayed up all night because he had drank six Monster energy drinks, gave him caffeine poisoning. He had to sit out multiple games. He was up late playing video games, whatever.
Yeah,
And ended up just slamming 6 Monsters in a row. I did the math on this. Monster, if you drink 6 of them, is about 960 milligrams of caffeine, give or take, right? Like standard deviation of whatever, but like almost 1,000 milligrams of caffeine in 6 Monsters. I want everybody, like, again, math comparisons, 28 cups of coffee. If you would have 28 cups of coffee,
holy cow.
Is only 570 milligrams of caffeine.
You could die from that, right?
Yes.
Like, I don't know. I don't
100%.
drink any caffeine, so I'm like, is that a lot? Is that not a lot? But that sounds like death.
It sounds like I want to scratch my skin off my body. The amount of anxiety that's probably induced from like just taking 1,000 mgs of caffeine to the dome. That's got to
going
be
out wired.
You just
Dude, it was right after a game too. It was after it was right after a game. Comes home from the basketball game. Is like, I'm gonna play some video games and just crank these monsters. What a day.
Yeah, what a day. Well, like, and think about like if he didn't eat or if he hadn't had any water after the game, he's doing it on a dehydrated system with no food. I'm only theorizing here, but that 1,000 milligrams again would be like magnified times at least 1.5 because of the empty stomach situation. And also, how do you not get a fucking ulcer from that?
Right. Wow. That's the first time I've ever heard of anyone like overdosing on or caffeine poisoning. Mm-hmm. I've had a friend though, he overdosed on vitamin C.
Oh,
yes. Did he turn orange?
He actually had to sit out like a week from football because he was so like he didn't have any energy. So what ended up happening was they give us supplements during the day that contained vitamin C in them, and he didn't know. And then he was taking emergency on the side because he didn't want to get sick. So he combined both of them, and he ended up having like over 1,000, I think, milligrams of vitamin C. And dude literally like shut down. Like he couldn't do anything for 4 or 5 days.
Motherfucker got. You know what I mean?
Them oranges, they really had enough.
It's weird though. Like certain vitamins, if you eat too much of them, they can like change the color of your skin.
Yeah, sure.
And like this is something I found out at a young age. I had a cousin who really liked carrots, ate a ton of fucking carrots, turned orange.
Wait, you're lying about that.
Right hand to God.
I believe that.
Right hand to God.
He turned orange?
He turned orange like a carrot. The same way that flamingos turn pink because they eat specific types of shrimp. My cousin turned orange.
So your cousin's a flamingo.
He is
transitive property, right? Something like that.
Did you say keratin?
Keratin. That's what's in it. That's what it's called. That's not a fake thing. I just looked it up too. It's keratinemia is what your cousin experienced.
Yeah, shit. But he's getting ready to turn into a carrot. That's nuts.
Oh, because what keratin is like, isn't that what like is in your nails and stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what your hair's made of.
Yeah.
Sweet. So I got a lot of keratin on my chin. The other thing, the other prong here moving forward is that I had to bring up Steven Seagal. For anybody who is not familiar with Steven Seagal, this guy is a little crazy. Do your research on Steven Seagal. I won't go through the entire, story of him now, but he is being honored in the country of Russia with an order of friendship from Vladimir Putin.
That's a thing.
which sounds like Mad Libs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
It
yes,
sounds
does.
like Mad Libs, but the award was apparently created in 1994 to encourage citizens for activities aimed at ensuring the well-being, prosperity, and security of Russia.
I don't think I want that award.
Seagal was granted Russian citizenship by Putin in 2016 and was appointed as Russia's special envoy to the United States in 2018. The honor came on the heels of the anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which began in February of 2022. Seagal, this is all from an article from thehill.com. Seagal, who was born in Michigan, supported Russia's 2014 annexation of Crimea, a peninsula in south of Ukraine. Last year, he was seen in Russia's state-owned TV network footage visiting the destroyed Ukrainian prison, or a destroyed Ukrainian prison. So Steven Seagal is a crazy guy who is friends with a crazy guy and got awarded for being friends together. So I wanted to share that with everybody. I didn't know where it fit in the show today, but I
Wait,
felt like
didn't
it
you
needed
say
to be
this was
mentioned.
going to lead us into combine talk?
At one point during my process of like combing through and figuring out what I was going to talk about in this segment, I had length
Oh, okay, gotcha. It
as
was gonna be
intercepted at the goal line. So I could do, I guess, a third prong and just go full on trident here. Is length intercepted at the goal line as we transition into NFL combine talk. I thought it's super funny that like we're seeing the Kenny Pickett small hands conversation happen with arms this year. And Tyler, again, we talked at the top of the show. You watched a ton of the combine. You were very analytical, combing through a lot of the things that you heard, that you saw, some of the buzzwords and whatever. And so I'll kind of turn it over to you as, you know, I think length was a big conversation point this year, especially on Saturday when we saw a lot of the offensive linemen go into their drills and tests and such.
Yeah, so length really refers to arm length. And why coaches think that's important is they want their offensive linemen to be able to get their hands on defensive linemen before they can touch them. Essentially is what it is. It doesn't necessarily mean that all good offensive linemen have long arms. It's more like traditionally a lot of linemen have longer arms.
They can scratch their knees standing up, so to speak.
Essentially, yes. Typically their wingspan is I think bigger than how tall they are. So, I mean, pretty long arms, but that's more for tackles. Like interior guys, they don't necessarily need that because they're so contained. While the D tackles aren't as athletic as DNs, not saying they aren't athletic, but it's so much more condensed that I don't think length is as big of an issue as people make it out to be. But last week I said, and I quote, there's going to be some nonsense going on at the combine. There's going to be some stupid comments about Bryce Young's height because it started before the combine even started.
5'10", short
Yep.
kings.
So as I watched throughout the entire combine, I took notes of some of the most outrageous things that I heard, and some of the comments that from the people announcing that didn't add up. So I'm going to start. I watched the defensive backs, and defensive back Derek Hall was highlighted as being a top defensive back prospect. They decided to show a bunch of his highlights, and look how he gets through that offensive tackle because he was a defensive back that walked down on the edge. Look how he got through that offensive tackle. It showed him going through an Akron offensive lineman, and Akron has been at the bottom of the entire NCAA for the last 5 to 10 years. Like they are so
Zips.
bad. Yeah. they I don't know if they've won a game this year. So that's just the start. Okay. There was a comment about Stetson Bennett that he's just as good as Bryce Young, but he just needs to clean up the off the field issues. He hasn't had an issue. He just needs to clean up the off the field issues because he got arrested for after out celebrating the national championship. If the guy makes one mistake, I don't think it's that big of an issue, especially something as small as that. But like, why is that an off the field issue? He won the national championship. He's 23 years old or 24 years old. And, he's out celebrating. Yes, was it stupid? Yes. But at the end of the day, I don't understand how that's an off the field issue.
And they're
in this
saying that
case.
that's the difference between him and Bryce Young. Is that
Bryce
night?
Right. That's what I'm saying. So
One night. If he didn't do that, he could be the number one
one
overall
night.
pick.
And also, I'll be kind of your Tony Reale here. Fact checking as you go through this. Akron this past season was 2-10. Their wins came against St. Francis, PA, which I believe is a Division II school.
It is a Division II.
And NIU, which at that point in the season, because I worked
Not
that
FBS
game,
either.
non-FBS, right? But they were also they were on their third string quarterback, their fourth string running back. They had tons of health issues all year long. So, like, again, one of the beautiful things about statistics is the fact that they can be so misleading depending on how you give them to people. The same thing with little just highlight clips is like, oh, look at the way he gets past this offensive tackle. Little do you know that offensive tackle is ranked literally 1,000 in the nation.
Yeah. And I didn't even look up the year of this guy because odds are, because of the new coaching staff, it could have been a true freshman or like a very inexperienced player. So I had a ton of comments from the quarterback section. Anthony Richardson had a huge day for himself. I think he really improved his stock in the draft. I think it's going to help the Bears position because there's going to be another good quarterback out there. As Ryan talked about earlier,
this is part of the everything falling into place too.
Mm-hmm. But like some of this stuff was ridiculous. Like Tyler Bagent, this is a Division II quarterback who got invited to the combine, and he's a world arm wrestling champion.
Whoa, that's kind of cool.
So that was pretty cool. But he was there in person, and they decided to pull him out of the stands and interview him. So the interviewer goes, Mr. Bagent, and asks him a question, and he interrupts her and says, No, call me the Beast.
Oh, Jesus.
And this interview is about his son. It's not even about him. I just
call me the Beast.
What an absolute ego move to pull at the combine. That's supposed to be about your son, making it about yourself.
I mean,
Clown.
So in D2 football last year, for who did he play for? I don't even know what team this is anymore.
I don't know.
He was 70% on his passes, 4,500 yards, 41 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. So, like, maybe a talented arm. Shepherd University.
Tyson Bagent. Wait, do we know what you're saying? It was his dad who want to be called the Beast?
Yes.
Do we
Whoa,
know?
That's even crazier. I
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
he was saying Tyler.
No. He said,
Tyson
call
Bagent.
me the Beast. His father.
Oh my God, that's so bad.
Do we know if his father was like notable? Like,
I'll
was
keep
he
looking.
like
Tyler, keep rolling.
Yeah, keep going.
So another comment that I had, obviously one of the bigger comments this week was Will Levis saying that he has a cannon and he intended to use it at the combine to show it off. He did nothing but the throwing drills. And he proceeded to underthrow a lot of his targets during the day. There was never a point where like, wow, he has like a Josh Allen moment, when he was in the combine or at his pro day where it was like, wow, he can really sling that ball. There was never a point during his drill section where I thought that. And especially since he was underthrowing receivers, not even in the vicinity of them, bouncing it to him, like 5 yards either way of them. Like it was getting kind of ridiculous. And then all the announcers were saying was, oh, let's see this cannon. Let's see that cannon. Only to have him underperform. Again, that was a similar thing with CJ Stroud. They loved CJ Stroud this weekend. They couldn't get enough of him because Bryce Young wasn't participating and CJ Stroud did, arguably the top 2 quarterback prospects in this draft. They were talking about how great CJ Stroud was and how smooth he looked throwing. And this was during his drill section where he was throwing to receivers running routes. Look how smooth CJ Stroud is the quote. And the 2 highlights are of him throwing 5-yard routes.
Hey, who doesn't
Would
love a
you-
good smooth 5-yard route?
Would you say that part of the issue of the NFL Combine, I think, to me, it might be two-pronged, but I'll ask you, do you think that it's the fact that there's guys covering the Combine that don't know how to analyze the Combine? And do you think that it's also just so much to cover that they end up just saying nonsense?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it should be in shifts. Like I want to say
Working the graveyard shift on the Combine, boys.
oh my goodness. on Saturday, I watched pretty much from the beginning to the end because I had 2 former teammates in it, Aiden O'Connell and Payne Durham, and then
Aiden
Charlie
had a big
Jones.
day.
Aiden did have a big day. And then Charlie Jones, who was a superstar receiver for Purdue this year. So I had a friend, someone that I knew in each segment of the day because it was receivers, quarterbacks, and tight ends.
Did Aiden ever touch your butt?
He never touched my butt. No.
That was a center joke.
I
That's
got
a
it.
center
I got it. It just
That was a
is
center
harsh
joke.
phrasing.
Anyway, from the beginning, like it was the same crew the whole day. And as they droned on, like they were talking about Chicago food because they were in Indianapolis.
That's
So they were
exactly
talking-
my point.
They were talking about deep dish pizza, and then they proceeded to say how good CJ Stroud was as CJ Stroud bounced the ball to a receiver. You can't make just general statements about it if they're not performing well. Like it should be in shifts. It should be they had NFL players there, and that was like their on NFL Plus. You could watch Adam Thielen break down the wide receivers with them on the field.
Which is smart.
I totally understand that. But then get guys in the booth that understand the positions that are going. That way you don't get tired of hearing the same people. You don't run into this problem of them just muttering the same nonsense. Aiden O'Connell, like we said, had a great day. They didn't talk about him at all. They talked about CJ Stroud all day. They talked about Bryce Young all day, about how how great he is or how short he was and how he wasn't participating. Were the same 3 things that they highlighted all day.
I think part of that is kind of stoking the flames on the kind of telenovela that the NFL is around this time, right? Like it's a kind of this league situation where we've got, so much happening with free agency coming next week. The combine was this past week. The draft is coming up. I think a lot of it is them just kind of trying to stoke those flames a little bit, massage it a bit. And so a lot of the guys that are there don't end up getting the shine on the broadcast per se, but best believe if somebody's throwing nukes with accuracy, a scout or a GM is there noticing it wholeheartedly.
Well, and so then there's the question of like, who is combine coverage designed for, right? It specifically is just designed for fans because all of the people who need to see the combine are typically at the combine. And if they're not, they have representatives who are. So it's like just for the TV watchers, right?
But I also think to that extent, Jack, that it's for fans, but it's for fans of teams that have high draft picks. A Kansas City Chiefs fan is not turning on the combine.
I mean, I think some football fans like I used to watch the combine when I was younger just because it was interesting.
Maybe,
stuff.
But I'll tell you as a Bears fan, over the past couple of years when they have not had a first round pick, I don't watch the combine because the top prospects aren't going to be there for my team to pick anyway. But now that I'm in a situation where all of these guys' performances matter, maybe in kind of a more roundabout way than it would if we needed a quarterback at that number 1 spot, all of it matters a little bit more to me this year because of the ramifications that it has on my team.
But I'd just like to pose the point that wouldn't you rather like, okay, who the stars are in the class. Tell me more about the diamonds in the rough that I might get. I feel like that would get more engagement than just the top picks. Like you said, the Bears don't have a pick in the first round the past couple of years. Why don't you tell me about, Tanner McKee from Stanford? Like I didn't even know that person existed. And then he's just trots out there and he has like, an okay day. Well, tell me more about him instead of talking about Bryce Young while he's throwing the ball. Like
he's also commonly known as like the 5th quarterback in this draft. Like a lot of people are like, okay, it's the top 4 and like Stroud, Young, Levis, and Richardson, and then McKee's right after that. It's a big gap, but he's there.
But if that's your top 5 and he didn't perform well, there was other quarterbacks there that were considerably better than him. And then not including Anthony Richardson and Will Levis and the usual suspects, right? Like, so
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's a bit of a conundrum too, because like we talked about this on the previous episode, is we don't necessarily even know how to handle the combine, right? Like the numbers that they want us to think are important aren't always important. The differences between the numbers maybe aren't as meaningful as they say. So it's like, even if you wanted further breakdown on that, and like let's talk about what's actually happening in the results, not just like all this other side, like, oh, we're in the Midwest, let's talk about the Midwest. Like, even then, you still as a watcher might react and go, okay, but you've told me this, I don't really need that, I could look this up on a chart. Like, what can you tell me that I could not find on the like combine results on NFL.com or whatever? So it's tough because they have to start setting up the narratives that they're then going to pitch on day one of the draft, because after that the viewership falls off. And so like I agree with you a lot, Tyler, that I remember having watched the combine in the past. It's nice when they have former like personnel and scouting people that are doing commentating. And NFL Network typically will have a few people, but sometimes they just have their regular like game analysts and day-to-day analysts who like maybe they know, maybe they don't. But I don't know that there's a good fix for it, because like you have to keep it where enough people want to watch it. And like Sartori kind of pointed out, is if it's not the top guy involved in my top team's top pick, then what's it to me? Which kind of sucks.
Yeah. I think there's definite changes that need to be made for it, but I have 2 more things that I just wanted to wrap up with. So these are some questions I had going into like the last day and like kind of recapping on it, like seeing everything. One of my main questions was, why do tight ends get to drive a sled, like for blocking, and the offensive line doesn't touch one? Just things you're wondering.
Things that make you go,
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. And then
couldn't even come up with an answer.
I'm even going to leave you guys with a little scandal.
Oh, hello.
Sources. I mean, you've probably seen this on Twitter, but some people are saying that the 40 clock was very wrong this whole week.
I did see that.
One of my sources also indicates that he felt cheated by the 40 clock. Going over video evidence, it would appear that this source ran a 44-yard dash versus a 40-yard dash, because that's when the clock stopped.
Well,
oh,
I would say that in these situations, one thing that is not commonly thought of by just the normal fan is that, yes, there is an official time that the NFL will list on this specific guy, but every team there that is scouting a specific individual, that we are locked in on this guy, we might be in a position to draft this guy given our spot, they're taking their own times.
and
right,
the ones on the like combine show, the first ones are often unofficial times, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes,
the first while.
But it wasn't like the final times too weren't like getting corrected much. So people were wondering, is there a scandal going on?
You know who I bet would have a great comment on this? Our minor league baseball friend who has recently joined the majors, who we talked about last time, that is concerned that time is being changed by the MLB. What if this is a concerted NFL and MLB conspiracy? They're changing the way humans perceive time. That would be wild.
Jack, I love that we got to the same point at the same time. I was like, oh!
Well, because I was already thinking, I'm like, oh, you've been so existential. Like last week you hung a banner for time, and this week one of your intercepted at the goal lines is length. Like, have you been taking philosophy classes or something? I mean, we're really getting to some strange stuff. Yeah. But the 40 times being wrong is also weird, because if they're all like video recorded, we're high schoolers could figure out the math of like this much space, this much time. Like that's literally a problem that you encounter in high school science or math, is how fast did this guy go? How long did it take him to do this? So I don't know how you have a team of professionals put out the wrong time when like some dude on his lunch break at like a grocery store could be like, oh, I just ran the math and it's actually this.
Because this is football. This isn't let's do math. This is time. We don't need anything else other than this here stopwatch, like the other thing I do want to bring up too is like inevitably coming out of every combine, there's going to be one sad story. Andrew Voorhees is a guard, a top 100 prospect for sure coming out of USC this year. Would definitely go and make an impact on whatever team drafted him. And during his drills and stuff, he tore his ACL, which is so tough to hear. You go through how many football seasons and you don't get a major injury, and then you're on the precipice of being drafted, and like the last thing that you have to do before you get drafted, you have a major knee injury, is crazy. But you want to hear some football guy stuff about Andrew Voorhees. Tears his ACL later on in the same day, does the bench press, gets 32 reps with one leg on the ground. That is some gritty football guy shit right there.
Yeah.
And for the bench press, everybody should know it's 2 plates. It's 225 pounds that he had one leg on the ground as an anchor and just said, okay, I got it. All good. Craziness. So, we've had a nice conversation on this. I'd love to talk about like offensive line play and stuff. Maybe that's for a different day, but Jack,
definitely for a different day.
One of the things that you wanted to talk about today with the news of Derek Carr being brought into the Saints, I'm not exactly sure where you want to go with this, so I'm not going to try to set it up any more than I have to. I'm just going to kind of kick it over to you and we'll go through that.
Yeah, so that sparked an idea in my mind that I discussed with some other friends and stuff, that with the Saints signing Derek Carr for 4 years, people were surprised at how long it is, and also like, what are the Saints' plans, because they did not make the playoffs this last year, and the team seems to be eroding from what was one of the best teams in football a few years ago. And I was personally excited because I know Derek Carr is a good quarterback, and so now we have a good quarterback, right? Like, who wouldn't want that? But then the question is, well, wouldn't you, if you weren't going to make the Super Bowl runs that you think you might have in the next couple of years, wouldn't you rather just kind of tear it down, rebuild, and like start fresh? And so from a fan's perspective, that's how I want to take this, because all of us are fans, right? We're all even footing on that, whether you're fans of the game or fans of a team. I want to know what is the most fun approach for your team to take? Because I personally love the fact that I can expect my team for the next 4 years to be playoff contenders. Maybe we're the 5, 6, 7 range. Maybe we win a division title. And like, to me, those accolades are meaningful enough because I'll get to watch them play some extra games, but I'm not expecting a Super Bowl. And that means that I probably won't be getting a Super Bowl for the 6 or 7 years after that 4-year window. And the alternative is kind of what the Bears are going through right now, which is they are in rebuild mode. They have removed themselves from playoff contention over the last couple of years, and now the prospects are massive. It's like this thing could take off, which is also exciting. So I just kind of wanted your guys' takes on, as a fan of a team, what do you want your team to do to make you feel the best during the season?
That's a good question.
Start.
That's a great question.
I think what I would love of the Bears or of any team that I root for professionally is logistical moves that sustain success. I guess what I mean by logistical is like moves that make sense canonically, right? Like the canon of your team and the way that you go about things and the plan that you have, and that is kind of conveyed by the moves you make, right? That plan and what we can expect from the team is that you can remain consistent on what we're doing. And when we do switch up, I guess from a GM's perspective, I'd like to know where we're going. So if you tell me we're in rebuild mode, got it. And I know when the things start to flip and then there's, smart moves made. The way that I'm putting it is I like the way that Ryan Poles is doing things right now, where I've talked about before, it won't be bullied by fans or media or whatever. He's got a plan. He's going to do things the way he wants to do it. That's the way I would like to see a team built, is like on a plan.
Okay.
Do it your way. And Jack, I think we've even talked about it on this podcast. I know you and I have talked about it personally, is like, if you have a plan, you set out on your plan and you don't succeed, I'm way more okay with that than you trying to make any sort of desperation moves like, oh, we signed a big name just so that you could have some sort of pass with the fans. I would much rather see logistical moves that sustain success is the way that I would like a team built.
Yeah, I agree. I think from, seeing more of like the business side of it, being, a part of teams before, I think that just giving your fans like you said, like, oh, I'm going to be content with like seeing some extra football. Like I'm not convinced that we're going to go to a Super Bowl. And then for the next 6 years after Derek Carr leaves, we're going to be in shambles. Like there's got to be some sort of direction in order for it to make sense, right? Like even as an owner, even as like a GM, like you could say like one of the shortcomings of the Bears the past couple of years is like it's just felt like we've been in a rebuild for like so long. We had that little glimmer of hope when Matt Nagy was here for the first 2 years. You could
18,
say.
19.
Yeah. You could say that there was that glimmer of hope, but it's just been a consistent rebuild. Like it was never fully seen. Like it was never like seen to completion like Ryan Poles is doing it right now. And that's you could attribute that to like all the turnover the Bears have had over the past couple like 10 years. So I think I agree. I mean, I agree with Ryan. Like there has to be some sort of direction to it. I think just trying to give like some fan service to your fans so they don't get mad at you is kind of really short-sighted because I mean, in the long run, like you're trying to win the championship if you give a shit.
Maybe to answer your question more specifically, or maybe it's even more generally and without the specifics of one specific team. If I'm cheering for a team, I don't see the point in something if we're not shooting for the highest goal. I don't understand the Dallas Cowboys kind of format and rubric of we are going to make sure that we have big stars on this team. We're going to spend money, but we're never really trying to be on the cutting edge of things and putting out a team that's going to win a Super Bowl. We are fully in belief that it's going to win a Super Bowl. You've seen things that Jerry Jones has done and on that team where he will get bullied by the fans. He will make moves to justify him being the owner and the GM. Like, I think number one on that list right now is the Zeke Elliott deal. He got bullied into that move. If he was a different GM, and I'm not saying that I know much about Ryan Poles yet because he doesn't have a whole lot of like
body of work isn't there.
He doesn't have a body of work. It's a very small sample size, but like from what I do know, a guy like him wouldn't be forced into a handcuffing contract to a guy like Zeke Elliott. He just wouldn't do it. There are GMs that will do that. And again, like if we're not shooting for the absolute highest goal, what are we doing?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters is winning the trophy.
See, but that's where I think I've almost begun to disagree when I think about this, because if like there's that kind of fickle, just water cooler talk question, which is like, if I told you that in the next 15 years, your favorite team would win one title, but every other season would suck, like, would you take it? Right. Like, is it worth it to get that thing? And it's one that I think like, okay, Bears fans, I would not expect to be envious of the Saints' current position, but like, take like the Texans, for example. I would expect a Texans fan perhaps to be envious of the Saints situation because their direction isn't clear yet, but we all know that it's one of those kind of bad before good. Like they're following the general model, but they don't have the pieces in place like the Bears do with Justin Fields and draft picks and stuff, for example. So it's one where we all like to see our teams win. Like as Bears fans, this is where my question comes more specifically. You don't know that a Super Bowl is coming out of this, but it feels like you're making the effort for it. And with the exception of that one, Mitch Trubisky might be one of the top quarterbacks, whatever nonsense. Nagy's a genius season. Like it's been a pretty rough decade for the Chicago Bears. You could even go a little bit longer than that. And so, like, is it worth all of that to now have what's more than a glimmer of hope? You have a bounty of hope. You've got a ton in front of you. Was it worth that slog to get there?
The slog of the 2022 season, 100%. The rest of it, I can't say that. Yeah. Well, and even there was some success of the 2010s. The Jay Cutler Bears weren't as bad as everybody likes to say they were.
No.
But it's pretty much as soon as Lovey left and Trestman walked in the door, that's when things started to get really bad for the Bears, right?
Oh, what a funny name to hear.
Mark Trestman and his gang of idiots. Like, he was supposed to be the QB whisperer for some quarterback that, wasn't
CFL legend.
CFL legend.
Grey Cup
That's
champion.
right. That's right. Yeah. Multiple time Grey Cup champ.
Mhm.
Is going through all of it with, Trestman and John Fox and Trubisky and Nagy and, all of the mishaps with the roster management during that time. Is all of that worth it? Absolutely not. Has the past year with Ryan Poles and tearing this thing down to the studs and building it back up been worth it? That part, yes, because it felt like we had a plan. It felt like, oh, we are on a trajectory. Whether we get a Super Bowl out of it or not, it feels like we're doing something intelligent and meaningful, versus every other GM or regime in the Bears building has just been like, we're going to make one big splash and everybody's going to love it. I loved when the Bears got Khalil Mack. What did that do for them?
Right. No,
what did it do?
That's a good point.
They gave up 2 first-round picks for Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
And did nothing with it. They had a pretty decent defense with him and Akeem Hicks and Danny Trevathan, right? But like, outside of that, they did nothing. It was just a big name that they went and traded for, and it cost them an awful lot.
That's where the NFL's tougher too, because you have such large rosters that, like, in talking with other people about this, NBA was a good counterexample because you only have 9 to 10 guys that are going to play regularly for you during the season. So like, you kind of have to do the rebuild and then rise back to the top model there. But like in the NFL, there's a bunch of teams that tread water because we have teams that have been good for a long time. We have teams that have been bad for a long time. And then there's a bunch of everybody else in the middle. And you can move that middle however you want. Like the Packers, for example. Do you think a Packers fan would be envious of the Saints situation right now? Because they're the better team, right? They have a better chance of winning the Super Bowl probably. Maybe not by a ton. They've got the better quarterback.
I just feel like their situations are so massively different that it's hard to find envy or disdain on either side of it, right? Like, both teams are strapped for cash, but both teams are strapped for cash in different ways. The drama surrounding them are very, very different.
Like, as a Packers fan, would you rather go through the Aaron Rodgers combined media circus and also failure to get a second Super Bowl appearance, but you know that your team is pretty good and a contender for the division every year? Or would you rather be the Saints, who got a fringe Pro Bowl quarterback on a team that's aging and already, trimming its leaves? I don't know.
I think you're an educated fan though, Jack. And in saying that, like, you can be a realist. Like, there are people out there that now think that the Saints are like one move away from being like super contention.
Yep, I've seen that.
So,
stupid
I mean, as long as you're a realist and you're thinking like that, I don't think it's any different than like how me and Ryan describe it. Like, what you're expecting out of like what you're seeing from the organization, right? Like, if you had some insane, like, oh, we're one move away from, we're in the hunt, like we're far playoffs. Like,
I mean, we were a game out of the playoffs, I think, this last year, so could have snuck in.
Right. Yeah, you could have snuck in, but like, I think at quarterback, you're at least better off, but does it really change the grand
Derek
scheme of
Carr's an
things?
improvement over Andy Dalton? Come on.
Dude, I did love seeing the, like, whenever there's a big signing in the NFL, ESPN has to come out with the graphic, like, the new look Saints. And it was Derek Carr, Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave. I think they still have Michael Thomas in there, and then Taysom Hill. And I'm like, that has to get so many people riled up. I'm big on Taysom Hill, but so many people have to hate seeing that he's like part of this team. Big design.
By the way, Alvin Kamara might not be a Saint by the time the league year starts around again.
Or might be a Saint and might not be able to play.
He could be
Saints Row, like.
Oh my God. No, it was just an interesting thing to me because I decided I'm super content. I would be fine if you told me that for the next 4 years, my team is going to win between 7 and 10 games every season. Like, that's fine. That's enough wins for me to get through the year. We'll get a couple playoff appearances and maybe you get some sneaky wins, but like, I don't know that I want to go through the 3, 4, 5 win seasons to maybe one day get to the next level, but then also potentially fall back to the 3, 4, 5 wins. Like, I don't know that I want that.
See, but I think that there's a level of bias there, right? And like, I'm not saying that it's bad, but like, you as a Saints fan since 2005. When did Drew Brees sign with the Saints? 05?
Yeah, I would have been mid 2000s. I started liking him.
Since Drew
Katrina.
Brees signed with the Saints, they haven't been bad. There's not been a season where the Saints were
No, they've never been
not
like a
in
bottom 5 team.
playoff contention, but they
5
were
wins
for a
one.
long time. They were terrible. But over the past almost 20 years, the Saints have never been a bad team. And so I think for you, there might be a little bias tucked in there of like, I'm fine as long as my team gets 9 wins a year and I get to see good football. Like, that's fine by me. I got to see a Super Bowl in my lifetime, whatever. But like for Bears fans, there was a 2 years where we were very good, and then things just fall apart so rapidly. It's like a degeneration.
And I got to
times
watch
10.
that happen. I didn't like
I
that
know.
for you guys either.
But like, there's a sort of deprivation for Bears fans where like we haven't gotten the thing sustained ever. There's never been a sustained period of time where the Bears were like, wow, these guys are world breakers. Even in the mid 80s, like they had 2 or 3 years where they were awesome. And then after that, everybody left.
But that's what happens. That's not just the Bears. That's a lot of NFL teams. And as far as the sports go, like as a White Sox fan, as an Illinois basketball and football fan, like all 3 of those teams have had very high successes of like making championships, making like strong bowl games and stuff. And also all 3 of those teams have had just horrendous years where they are almost unwatchably bad. And I would rather Illinois make March Madness as a 6 seed every year than have them go like 9 and get some of these like Nebraska basketball like 9-20 seasons. Like I'm fine if they're just good.
Illinois is a poverty basketball program.
It is actually a poverty basketball program. But
Wait. Where did that all just go?
I don't know.
Boiler up, hammer
basketball?
down.
Oh!
Give
I
me that
missed that.
cannon.
I missed that. Okay.
What I will say though, and now that I got on that tangent with Tyler, I'm having a hard time getting back to it.
Sorry.
What I will say though is there are teams that have sustained success, and maybe this loops back to the point and kind of puts a nice bow on all of it. There are organizations that have sustained success for decades at a time.
Sure.
The Patriots had it. Yes, they had Tom Brady in the mix of all of it, but even still, in the years without Brady, it's been a little slim, but they're still, I think, they're fine. The Packers got a Super Bowl, are in the playoffs every year, have been to multiple NFC championship games. Sustained success. It's there for so many teams. I would like the team that I root for, the team that I invest, that's 18 times 3, that many hours a year on Sundays. I would like to see that team have some sort of sustained success so that I don't have to constantly be wondering, well, what's going to happen, you know?
You already said that that's not you pick teams that have won Super Bowls and have the accolades, because the Cowboys unquestionably have had sustained success for decades.
Totally.
You're saying you wouldn't want that. Earlier you said you didn't like the Cowboys situation. You think that would be difficult because you never get to that point. But that is sustained success for 40 years.
Sure. I think that if that is your level, if you want your team to pump out 9 wins and that's cool and a first round exit and you're cool with that, that's sustained success. At the NFL level, that's probably a pretty good level to say like, hey, we've been successful. We just have not been uber successful. But I feel like the difference between the 2 teams, the 3 teams, the thing that's the same with the Packers and the Patriots is they're always, it seems, trying to vie for a Super Bowl appearance, where the Cowboys always just kind of feel like this team that's like, we're going to sell out every game. We have fans. We have the biggest fan base in the United States. We don't need to do anything else other than pump out 8-8, and we'll be fine. We'll be great. You know what I mean? So I think there's a discrepancy in the success there. Are both franchises successful? Yes, I would say they are. The Steelers are another one that have been consistently successful for ever.
You also have to consider the difference too is the Cowboys have had other top teams in their division. The other 3 divisions that you mentioned combined have one Super Bowl appearance in the last 15 years that isn't Packers, Steelers, or Patriots.
Sure.
Whereas the Cowboys have the Eagles multiple times, the Giants multiple times. So like, sure, the Packers might go 12-4 or 12-5 or whatever, but they also have had a walkover division for a lot of it. The Steelers might go 13-3. They get to play the Browns and the mediocre Bengals twice. So it just, I mean, like you could parse apart the analogy, but I do get what you're saying is like, you want them to not just be consistently good, but have the floor be good and the ceiling be great. Whereas Dallas's ceiling right now, they haven't hit it in a long time.
Right. Exactly. I think this is an awesome conversation about kind of like roster buildup, what you want your team to be, and like again, breaking it all down to the studs, building it up for sustained success. That's what I really would want any team to do. And I think that's what the Bears are doing. And that's something, another reason why I'm so excited for what this launch from the floor could be for the Bears. Because I think in a lot of ways, they're the Bengals from a couple of years ago. If they start adding just a couple of pieces for Justin to throw the ball to consistently, congratulations. You're now a fringe playoff team. And 3 years from now, you could be a contender, depending on how you add talent and how you develop your prospects and such. So, but with that, I do want to transition away and get into our new segment, which we are going to call, thanks to Tyler Witt, Starting Five. Starting Five is going to be a fun way to kind of get us through the summer till we get back to football and have a more consistent basis of content to talk about. Drafts are fun. Drafts are fun. We talked about mock drafts galore in this episode. So we're not going to draft players. We're not going to, we might get around to some sports topics every now and again, but I would really like for all of our topics to kind of be zany and out there and left open for interpretation. So with it being as warm as it has been here in the state of Illinois over the past 2 weeks or so, I mean, today it was 60 degrees here in Rockford and sunny, and, you know, we've got more of the same coming later in the week. Spring is upon us. And so the topic today is spring things.
Okay.
That's it. Again, left open for interpretation. I don't know how you guys want to go about our draft order, but I was thinking I'll do a random number generator between 1 and 20. Closest gets to go first. Second closest goes second. Furthest away goes third. Is that cool?
Sure.
Love it.
All right. I need to Google a random number generator. So give me just a second. Max of 20.
Editor's note, cut this part.
Yeah, it won't. No, I'm just going to let it fly, baby.
Leave it in. Fuck it. We'll do it live.
Yeah, fuck it. We'll do it live. Yeah, that's one of my
It's
favorites.
pre-recorded.
Okay. So minimum is 1, maximum is 20. I will generate the numbers looking away from me.
I mean, we could just all pick and then you hit generate. Right?
I just did it.
Okay, that's weird. Go for
Everybody pick a number. 1, 2, 3, 12.
17.
1.
It was 14.
12 is the closest, 17's next, and 1 is not the closest.
We'll do a snake draft.
Okay. All drafts should be snake drafts, by the way.
I think so too.
Every draft, a casual draft, a fantasy sports draft, everything should be a snake draft, with the exception of professional sports. And if you play fantasy and you want to do auction drafts, those are also better.
So moving forward, the winner of these drafts will decide the next one.
Oh, whoa! We've got some stakes on the. Hold up, my list is not nearly good enough for an actual incentive.
I have a good list, and I'm very confident with my list.
Oh God!
I did not want the first overall pick,
Mm.
which makes it stupid that I chose the number in the middle of the data set. But spring things, again, left open to interpretation. So I think just with me being me, one of the things that returns in spring is baseball. Easy number 1 pick for me. It's the guy that was on the top of my board. It might not be the best value, but it's who we wanted, and we got him.
I mean, surefire pick all the way around for you.
I got an entire sport on my side.
You got part of it. You got the early goings of an entire sport. You get no playoffs, by the way. That's fall.
That's true. I got regular seasons
in the summer.
I got spring training and regular season baseball. What about if I say baseball returning? Like the excitement of baseball returning.
I'm assuming we're using the cutoff dates, right? Of like it's got to be spring, or is it just things that like feel like spring?
You could do things that feel like spring. You could, again, I left it open for interpretation.
All right.
So
I'm
like,
trimming you down. You don't get playoff baseball.
That's fine.
Minus playoff baseball.
The next pick, and I also want to be put out there too. The first pick ever on this podcast was baseball.
Oh, we did didn't we do our Christmas songs one a
Don't
while
care.
back?
I don't care.
We did.
That's
the
a more
first
interesting
pick,
sport than baseball.
Dominic the Donkey.
number
Anyway.
2, with the second pick in the Spring Things draft, Tyler Witt selects.
I'm going with the return of rain. No
Ooh.
more snow. No more ugliness outside. You get the fresh smell of rain and the return of thunderstorms, which is, I lump in the category of rain. Falling asleep to the sound of thunderstorms is easily the most soothing sound ever. Hearing the rain hit the roof of your house as you're drifting off to sleep. Easily the best part of spring.
Can I just add, when you live in a trailer, not as much. You hear every raindrop.
I enjoy every raindrop, though.
Dude, I didn't think
could
I was
fall
like, nobody's gonna pick rain. I could put rain down on here. There, somebody already picked rain.
Off the
Top
board.
Top pick.
Could have
We
traded up.
scouted them heavy.
All right, well, I'm gonna stick with my first pick. I'm gonna stick in the weather category instead of the fact that there's no snow, it's raining. I'm gonna go with the sunshine, the daylight, the warmth group. I'm gonna go that at least for us, we're Midwest biased. We're getting like livable weather again, and I think this is going to be a big factor in a lot of the. I mean, it's a big factor in baseball, and a lot of picks to come are going to be related by the fact that as humans, we are now able to do things again. So I'm just gonna have the sun. I'm gonna take the sun and the warmth first.
On here, I had being outside and the air doesn't hurt you.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's it. That's
off
exactly
my
right.
board. Off my board.
All right, and then I'm gonna stick. Also influenced by sunshine. Number 2, I'm gonna go with wardrobes. I'm gonna say it's the return of t-shirts and shorts, and for a bunch of you losers, sandals and flip-flops. But for you absolute geniuses, Crocs are back. I'm gonna say everything in the apparel category. It's not all like 3 layers of clothes, and it's not all long sleeve, but you still get the long sleeve in the evening. So I'm taking spring clothes options. I don't know how to
Fair.
call that.
Fair
And that
enough.
goes back to Tyler.
With my second pick, I am going with the smell of fresh cut grass.
Ooh.
The weather's nicer. Everyone's outside, and there's nothing like opening your door and smelling that fresh cut grass. That's got a little hint of dew in it, you know? It's not just like that dry heat, you know, it's like that slight chill you get with the breeze, but you still get that smell. I think that's top tier.
All right, I'm gonna flip this draft on its head.
Oh my god. You already did with number 1.
With the 6th pick in the Spring Things draft, I'm gonna select the song "I'm Sprung" by T-Pain.
Wow.
What?
Wow. It is related to spring.
Your second overall?
That's a great pick.
Yeah.
It's a
that'd be
great song.
like 9th round pick. I'm with you.
Yeah, that's
Jeez. Don't let this guy do your Bears mock drafts anymore. Ryan Poles, watch out.
he traded up for baseball, and then second pick was
I'm
a song by
sprung.
T-Pain.
Yeah. I give you points for creativity, though. I appreciate. I didn't have any
Yeah.
creative type things on my list like that. I'll give you points there, but
Realistically, I just wanted to show you guys the boundaries of the draft and where we could go with it. I wasn't sure if everybody was on the same page.
I'm with you on that. I
Fine.
just
I can get creative.
Okay.
right.
The next thing on my list,
Yeah.
the next pick, the 7th pick in this draft, I'm going with Spring Ahead.
Oh,
daylight savings.
That's a good one.
You know, you
I
get
don't-
that extra hour of sunlight at the end of the day, so you could be a little bit more productive. Yes, your drive to work might be a little bit darker. It might stay darker a little bit longer in the mornings, but inevitably you get a longer tail to your day, which I think matters much more than driving to work with sunlight.
And
Absolutely.
I think daylight savings gets a bit of a bad rep on the spring forward because everybody's disappointed that they lose the hour of sleep that night. But it's so worth it for everything that comes afterwards, right? Like, take an hour of my life and give me this. I will trade that every time.
All right,
All right.
back to Tyler here.
Third
round.
pick in the Spring Things draft because Ryan wants creativity, I'm going to go with the Slinky. Top tier toy.
Is shaped like a spring.
Shaped like a
Oh.
spring.
Mhm.
So I'm going to tell a little story. I used to love Toy Story when I was a kid,
Mhm.
and I always wanted to have a Slinky dog toy, like Woody in the movie. And when we would go to Disney World, I would get one, but within like an hour of me getting it, I would destroy it. Like it would be tangled, and I would
Yeah,
ruin
how
it.
the fuck does that happen?
I don't
You're
know.
reckless?
It's blasphemous.
You reckless.
When's the last time you were in at Walt Disney World in Florida, Tyler?
Oh, it's been 8th grade, maybe.
You know they now have a Slinky ride. They have the Slinky Dog Dash. He got a whole ride. Slinky Dog did.
Well, now that's my first stop if I ever go back.
That would be
Slinky dog ride.
that would be unfortunate to find out that you also mangled that one. But I think
I was wrestling with him on the ride. He just got all tangled up.
Okay. No, that's good. I'm glad that you picked that and Ryan forced you on the creativity because I think I can just like cakewalk to a top team by the end of it. All right, I'm gonna cheat a little bit by grouping two things together, knowing that I'm sacrificing conference tournament season. I'm taking playoff basketball. Okay, so I'm taking the final rounds of March Madness and the NBA playoffs, and I know that I then lose the like lead up to both of those things. But I do think, especially for people who aren't into basketball, both of those are highly watched, very recognizable, fun events, and you don't have to watch all the rest of it. We talked about it before. Like, don't care about the NBA. Might watch the NBA finals anyways. So I'll take playoff basketball as one. And oh man, it's tough. It's tough. I'm gonna also go with pastels. I'm gonna go with pastel colors.
Really?
Yes. I think it's I think coming off of a season where everybody's wearing the same like black coats and black shoes and blue jeans, like it'll be nice. I think that in keeping with the, you like the short sleeves and the shorts and stuff to open up the wardrobe a bit, I'm sticking with the clothes thing. And
So
saying
that's
it's nice to look at colors.
this is 2 picks now in the clothes category.
Well, because the pastels appear other places too, right? Like you can definitely see marketing or promotion or things that are like spring themed and they sort of just steal like the Easter egg dye palette. But like those are all fun colors and you don't see them really at all in the winter. So marketing too, they're bringing colors back into the world, specifically the pastel set.
Great. I think your statement about cakewalking to a top team is pretty
Just took a hit.
pretty ruined.
Oh,
right
I
now.
knew this one was going to be a
Pastels
little
at
bit down the
4.
board. I knew this was going to be a little down the board.
I'm gonna go.
Hell yeah, Cat!
You were on here. Oh my goodness. Oh,
Add that to the
Lord.
guest appearances.
I was like, what the hell are you doing? He's trying to be sneaky, grabbing a towel.
It was sneaky. Points for sneakiness.
Points for sneakiness.
Oh, you
Tyler,
remember-
you're still on the
you guys
clock.
Remember
Yeah.
when Tariq Cohen went live on Instagram and
Oh, Kyle Long's he had shorts on, to be fair. He had shorts on. Oh, thank God. Okay, my
I've got the teaser.
My next pick is going to be windows down with music turned up.
God,
Yeah,
Windows Down was on my list.
Weather's finally nice enough. Windows all the way down. This isn't some like little bit. Like you can finally have them all the way down and be comfortable. And then you can have that music turned up. Maybe a little country music as you're driving down the back road. That's like top 10 feelings all time.
The Windows Down music is definitely an elite way to listen. And
I mean, value. You want to talk about value for a pick? It was coming off the board in the next 2 picks if you didn't take it.
Right.
But value at 11 for Windows Down music up is, I mean, he might be GM of the year. All right. Next on my list, this is for all my fans of sleeping.
Final pick.
No, I got
2 more. You got 2 more.
two
Final
more. We're
2
doing
coming
5
up.
rounds. Starting 5. Dumb.
Oh yeah, I am done. I am done.
Again, a name coined by Tyler
CT.
Witt.
CT.
CTE. That's right. All right. So next off the board. This is from all my fans of sleeping. Is Box Springs.
My God. Yeah,
I'm
great.
covering so much ground here.
Dude.
I respect the chance to be creative, but
This is
coming up number 4.
Do you remember who was it? Was it the Colts versus the Patriots when they went with a unique punt formation and everyone's like, "Whoa, never seen this before," and the guy just like got immediately tackled for a loss of 8 on 4th down? That's like it is creative, unique, no question. We love the boldness of your approach, but boy, one pick to bring it back.
Dog-friendly podcast.
A dog-friendly podcast. And you hear the
I heard the
squeaking in the
squeak.
back.
I heard the squeak.
Shut up, Clark. Shut up, Clark. Dog-friendly podcast.
All right, close it out. Close your section out.
It's gonna sound funky because I'm not a huge fan of the music, but he's a gigantic artist, and it feels wrong if I don't take him and just leave him on the board. So with my final pick,
I know where you're going with
who
this.
is it?
Bruce Springsteen.
It's Bruce Springsteen.
Wow,
That was a good one.
that might actually be my least favorite pick in the entire draft.
I figured you wouldn't like it.
He is like top 250 rockers of all time.
Wow. Strong
you know
feelings
what?
about Bruce Springsteen.
The fans are the fans.
Fans of the fans. Boss of nothing.
My next pick.
Final pick.
Final pick.
Final pick. Ooh, it's a final pick.
Yeah, I know. I still have a bunch of things that I'm like, I really like these things.
We could do honorable mentions.
All right.
Oh man, this is a tough one because this is 2 very contentious picks. I'm gonna go with this one because you can kind of do the other one year round. The return of bonfires.
Ooh.
Very excited. The smell of a bonfire, a good old fashioned s'more on a weekend after have a couple beers. You're sitting outside. It's that nice temperature. Perfect for a bonfire.
See, bonfires to me, I automatically think of fall.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
Good pick.
everybody's
Good pick.
experience is unique, man. So
You
if
have
that's-
definitely the most aromatic draft. You took rain, fresh cut grass, the windows down when you're driving, and bonfires.
And spring and slinkies. So
I don't know that Slinkies have a specific scent. I don't know that
they
fits the
smell
rest,
like
but-
pennies.
they they smell metallic.
I smell pennies.
No, that's I'm with Ryan. I think good pick. Maybe not the best season, but definitely no, bonfire's a good pick for sure. All right. So many good options left here, but I got to go with one that was in my top of the group, and that is outdoor dining. I think being able to like sit at a patio at a restaurant, or being able to just like sit outside on the front porch when you're having lunch or something, do a picnic, like you could do all that again. And even though that might be like more of a summer thing, I think by the time it gets to May and June and everybody opens up, like everybody has their patios open, who's picking indoor dining at that point, man? Come on.
I'm not a
outdoor dining again.
big bug guy. My honorable mention was grill season. Like this is like you could start getting outside, cranking up the grill. But I feel like I've seen a lot of people during the winter months also utilize their grill. So I don't want to. Chose to save that one.
Honorable mention for me was being sprung from jail. So that's a pretty good thing.
I figured that was coming after the T-Pain song. I'm like, it's gonna be sprung from jail next.
Also on my list, spring break.
Yep, I had spring break. Was thinking about that.
Spring
But I think
cleaning.
it doesn't matter too much anymore, right? Like spring break's not as big of a deal
Not
for
for
us
us.
as it once was.
Not for us.
Yeah. Gone are the days.
Because I put like the end of school is kind of a nice thing, but like doesn't really hit us too much anymore.
Right.
What else did I have on here?
Spring water.
Okay, there's one that
Essence of life, water.
sure. Well, I had walks, but I'm like, yeah, you could go for a walk whenever. Like, I'll take other outdoor activities. We didn't take any holidays. I had a whole list of holidays that I was thinking about lumping together, but none of them are really strong enough in my mind. Because we got
Memorial Day, right?
well, and we've got
St.
April
Patty's Day.
Fool's Day, St. Patrick's Day, Easter, Passover, Mother's Day. Like, I guess Mother's Day is probably the big one on that list. But
Father's Day.
Does Father's Day hit in spring?
June.
It's July.
June.
No, it is
Oh, it's
June.
June.
But
Yeah,
when
it is
in
June.
month
It
is
is
it?
June.
Father's Day, June
June 15th.
18th.
18th.
It is in summer this year. Maybe some years it's in spring. I'm not sure.
No.
we didn't-
The equinox happens on the 22nd.
Wait, when does spring end? Why did I think it was like the 11th or something?
June
21st.
22nd.
Oh yeah, so it sneaks in. So it is a spring one this year. We didn't take any like ancillary sports stuff. That like I had the French Open, the Masters, the Kentucky Derby, like all these other sports things. I didn't care enough about any of them to take them, but for a
I'm
sports
proud.
podcast, it was
Proud for all of us.
yeah.
That we
That
kept it
none of us
non-sport.
none of us took the Kentucky Derby or the U.S. Open of golf.
The Masters, any of that. Very good. I mean, that was our first draft. I also had the sound of birds and the phrase "spring chicken."
Spring. That would have been the best one out of all your creative
That's
picks.
a good one.
I would have
That's a good one.
absolutely given the most respect to spring chicken. Oh, I'm so disappointed you went with all these other ones.
That was a good one.
Just the phrase. Nothing else about
spring
it.
rolls. I just thought spring rolls. Do you guys
Spring
like
rolls, yeah.
Ooh.
I'm
don't
not
really
a big
use-
spring roll guy, or else
not
I would
either.
have said yes. To spring
Yeah.
rolls.
box
Um,
springs? My God.
Hey, if you like sleeping, you need a box spring. So
Oh my gosh. All right. So wait. So how are we determining who the winner was? Are you putting up a poll or something on social media?
I guess I'll do that. Yeah.
I was gonna say. Otherwise, we're just voting for each other.
Do we need a graphic? I can make a graphic.
Oh, yes. Great idea. I will send you a picture of all the selections.
Oh, you wrote them down too. Okay, I got them here also.
Yeah, you should see how many random posted notes are just kind of
Oh, yeah.
scattered about.
I've got the notes app on my computer with all the like every episode we've had, my planning and stuff.
I still have the notes for the Kim Kardashian comeback player of the year.
Probably get rid of that one.
Yeah, maybe. We're in March. Anyway,
Not done
fun.
yet.
Not done?
We have to hang a banner, yeah?
Well, we're going to. I was just saying,
You sounded
pivoting
like
out
you
of
could
starting
wrap up
five,
this.
this is something that's going to be around with us for the summer. If you have an idea on what we should bring to the table for a draft idea, whatever, throw it our way. It might just end up on the podcast, but let us hang a banner for whatever this week. Anybody want to go first? Should I go first?
You
Yeah, go
should
first. Go for
Okay.
it.
I'm hanging a banner this week for Beetlejuice herself, Lori Lightfoot, who I can't say impacted my life all that much, but I know has impacted the lives of many other people. Many people did not like the job that she did as the mayor of Chicago. I can't speak to facts. What I will say is that the primaries for the Chicago mayoral election recently passed, and the blowout of Lori Lightfoot during this election was monumental. 84% of voting Chicagoans voted against the incumbent mayor. She's not even going to make it to the November ballot, which is crazy numbers. 84% of people. She had to call it before 10 o'clock that night because of how bad she got beat. So hanging a banner for Beetlejuice. She will forever remain in the rafters with her weird little pantsuits and such. Sue me.
Beetlejuice. Spell red.
Tyler, you go.
Oh, no, please no.
Okay. Fine, I'll go. All right.
Wait, I just realized that our idea of Beetlejuice is two different people.
Wait.
You're talking about Howard Stern's version.
Yeah, Beetlejuice.
I was talking about Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton. Yeah. I got
Oh.
that was, yeah. I got both of yours separately. Nobody wants to mention
geez.
the star Beetlejuice? No? Save that for the Beetlejuice draft.
All right.
All right, I got it's two-pronged. It's the same thing, but I want to do a team and then a member of the team. I'm hanging a banner for the Kennesaw State men's basketball team, the Owls, and their head coach, Amir Abdur-Rahim. Kennesaw State in 2019, when Abdur-Rahim took over as the head coach, won a single game. That was it. They were probably one of the worst basketball teams in NCAA Division I in the last decade, was the 2018-2019 Kennesaw State Owls. As of this weekend, they have qualified under the same coach, and we're 5 years later, for their first ever NCAA tournament appearance. They took down Liberty in the Atlantic Sun Conference Championship. And there's a fun Twitter account called the Never Missed a Tournament Club. Never Made a Tournament Club. Never Made a Tournament Club. And so they track every year what teams have never made it to March Madness. And this Twitter account is dedicated to rooting for them all season long and hoping that they make it. And so that was the first of potentially multiple entries this year. But I think it's cool that you had a team that was actually so bad. And, there's nowhere to go but up from there. But they stuck with their coach. He stuck with their team. And yielded a conference title. So fun, cool story. You'll get to watch them when March Madness starts. Shout out Kennesaw State.
It comes down to me, huh? So that's unfortunate.
Yeah, an hour and 40 minutes. Wrap it up, guys.
Yeah. I'm just gonna hang a banner for my pet rabbit Oreo, because it's springtime. Spring's right around the corner. Probably the most important thing left off of my draft was rabbits and bunnies alike. So hanging a banner for Oreo. Is he on there?
Bunnies was 2 below box springs.
No, this was just a stream of consciousness.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
So
bunnies are on my list.
Shout out to my good pal Oreo. He's about to be 5. It's his birthday coming up. Oh, his birthday is coming up. It's right around the corner.
And rest easy to my boy Eeyore.
Yeah. RIP. Pour one out for Eeyore this month. When's his birthday?
That's a hard combination of names to say. Eeyore and Oreo.
Yeah, it is.
A lot of vowels.
That's why we call Oreo. That's why we call Oreo Leroy.
That's like right. The same as that's all equally difficult and confusing. Leroy Oreo. Say that 3 times fast.
All right, we're gonna wrap the show up. Another quick shout out. North Central College has another national championship program. Their women's wrestling team, national champions of an all-conference situation. So this is D1 programs, D2 programs, D3 programs all together. They started their program in 2018. It is 2023, 5 years later, and they are national champions. So congratulations to them. Also, the things you can do at NCC, my friends. With that, we wrap up episode 24 of the Hangin Banners podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us. I'm Ryan Sartori. That's Tyler Witt. That is Jack Coachman. And we will be back next week for our quarter century episode as we keep aging a year per episode. We'll see you guys next week. Until then, peace.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot for that look into sports, Brian. Yeah. And when we come back, we'll have one final look at weather. Stay tuned.